Good evening, America, and good morning, good afternoon, Australia, rather. Welcome to all of you listening live. This is live streaming to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome to everyone who's listening today. You're with Toni Lontis, and this is Radio Toni Every Day Business, and with our special co-host, Christine Stow. Now, just a quick reminder, if you want to find out any information about the show, please jump on to radiotoni.com, where you will see all the information that leads directly to our amazing co-hosts with any offers that they might have and any of our downloads. So that's radiotoni.com. You can also friend us on Facebook. Radio Toni has its own Facebook page, and you can find us on YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So that's about covers us for the social media wrap up this morning. Now, I have with me a very excited Christine Stow, but before I introduce you to her, I need to tell you about this amazing woman. Now, Christine is a speaker, author, and community consultant. When Christine found out something was wrong with her little baby daughter at 3 months of age, she had to reinvent herself. Since then, she's been elected to council, written her own story, completed an MBA, established support programs, and a special school. From lab tech to sales to carer to councillor, she now speaks to women to help them find their passion, uncover their purpose, and turn it into business gold, supporting women to be empowered to make a contribution while working around their unique responsibilities, to realise their true value. Christine likes to say life is about choices. You choose how you live each and every day. She chooses to wake up and live the best life she can, to wake up. She wakes up grumpy every day at what life has thrown her, then with Imogen's disabilities, or she can wake up and embrace each day for the wonderful day that it gives. It does not make a difference if Imogen is sad or happy, so she might as well be happy and make the best of her life. She will not be defined by Imogen's disabilities. So, Christine, good afternoon and welcome to Radio Toni.
Yeah, good afternoon and good evening to the listeners in the USA.
I've been particularly excited to have Christine on the show since she first agreed to co-host with me. She has an amazing story, and I thought today that the best way to start is start at the beginning. So, Christine, tell me about you and your life up until this point. So what was growing up like? What was early adult life like?
So we're going to need more than one show for all of that, obviously.
I know. Lucky we have more than one show, though. Hey,
that's right. So I grew up in Epping, so that's where I live now, the northern outskirts of Melbourne, and it was semi-rural, if you like. And looking out, my parents had acreage, and I used to say I live on the edge of reality, was the edge of Melbourne. But my parents ran a business from home, and that's significant because I think that it's shaped a lot of how I think and how I work now. So they ran a business from home, and we had their employees would come and eat breakfast at our table with us. So that's how my parents had people coming and going all the time, ran their business, and they always treated people well, and I think that that's really important. So from there I went to local primary school and then away to a private girls' school. That also shapes how I think.
Yes.
Went on to study Bachelor of Science because that's what our headmistress said everyone should study, science. So I did science, and then I got a job in forensic science and testing drugs and blood alcohol. So that was interesting and I loved it. But I realized that I wanted to help people. So I decided, I was terribly shy. I didn't talk to anyone.
Yes.
But I wanted to help people. I wanted to help scientists and laboratory people. So I decided I wanted to get into sales. So I felt that being here in Melbourne would keep me in a laboratory box. So I decided I'd go to Queensland because I was spending money on science and technology. So back then we didn't have, this was last century, right? we didn't have something called the internet. So I decided I'd apply for jobs in Queensland, and what I had to do back then was to get a newspaper from Queensland. So I got the local newsagent to fly up a copy of the newspaper, Queensland newspaper, to apply for jobs. And that's also significant because I think that, but even back
Yes.
then, before I'd done coaching or before I found out some, before this life, if you like, I decided that this is
Yes.
where I wanted to get to
Yeah,
and took the steps to get there. And I think that's significant. Thinking
it
back,
is.
now you just Google it, right? But I
Yes.
took extraordinary steps. I remember driving down every Monday
Yes.
to the newsagent. When I think back now, I think,
Yes.
what was I thinking?
What?
But this is what I did every week. And then I couldn't actually get something without being in Queensland. So I saved up all my money and moved to Queensland. And then
Yeah.
I was up there and I was applying for jobs, and I was offered a couple of different jobs. And I
Uh-huh.
say that applying for a full-time job is a full-time job.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
to be committed to what you're doing. So I was committed and I got a
Yeah.
job. Eventually I got a job in sales, and I was pretty quickly made state manager up there. So it was
Oh,
a wonderful
wow.
life. Queensland's wonderful.
Yes, well,
Queensland,
I think I'm pretty partial to Queensland as well, but I do like Victoria and Melbourne, I have to say, and I have missed Melbourne this year in particular because listeners, just retrospectively, or just speaking, Melbourne in Australia is in Victoria, which is the southern states, and poor old Melbourne has been in one of the world's toughest lockdowns for, was it about 3 months, Christine, that you
from
guys were in
July,
lockdown? It
from July till
was a long time,
October. Yeah, so it was
just
3 or 4
soon.
months.
Yeah. So normally I would fly multiple times to Melbourne for conferences or getaways or business, and I haven't been there once this year, and I have to say I miss it. That's all there is to it. So anyway, this is where Christine lives now. Sorry, I digress. Back to your story. You were living in Queensland and you applied for jobs the old-fashioned way.
Yeah,
The
but look,
because now it's
Queensland's beautiful. I love Queensland. The weather up there is good and it lends itself to a great lifestyle. But for Melbourne's got
it
a different personality, I think. I remember
it has.
living in Queensland, and it had this wonderful weather where,
Yes.
um, but people weren't taking advantage of it. Like down in
Yep.
Melbourne, I remember coming back to Melbourne, it was 13 degrees and people were sitting outside drinking coffee, but they didn't do that in Queensland.
Yeah. Yep. If it's
But
13
Melbourne,
degrees in Queensland, everyone thinks it's just cold, but I
no,
love the
it's
cold
not.
weather. So if it's
So
cold in Queensland, I'm happy.
yeah, so the personality of Melbourne, I think, is like different. We've got a different perspective. We've
Yes.
got a lot of European influence, so
Yes.
different delightful foods, that sort of thing. So Queensland was great.
Yes.
And then I met my now ex-husband up there, and I
Yes.
came back to Melbourne to be with my family and have kids,
Yes.
which was great. We were renovating an inner city dump. It was a dump. It was a double-fronted big garden. We had no bathroom at one stage, and they had the gas exploding. We had no hot water, and
Oh,
I'd fallen pregnant. So it was quite a story
yes.
renovating
Yes.
this house.
Yes.
And double fronted, white picket fence, everything was perfect. And I'd been made
Yes.
national technical advisor for a medical company, which was absolutely where I wanted to be. I was swanning around the
Yeah.
world
Yes.
advising doctors and nurses on our products, and had my second
Yes.
daughter. Was all set to go back, everything's perfect, loving husband, renovating the house, as you do.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
found out there was something, and I still get emotional when I recount the story
Yes.
about
Yes.
I'd taken Imogen, so that's my second daughter, to the child and maternal health nurse, and she said she's not meeting her milestones, and the bottom just fell out of my world. It was a grey and overcast day, and I remember just not knowing what was
Yes.
next. That was like
Yeah.
the end of my life. Totally, bottom fell out of my world. So that was tough. That was really tough. And then time went on.
She was about 3 months old, was she?
She was 3 months, yeah. So you go to the child and maternal health nurse a number of times, and then, I could see that the child and maternal health nurse was working really hard on her this day, and she, they to follow a toy, and she wasn't following the toy, and you kind of make all these excuses like, oh, it'll be all right. She doesn't feel like it today, and then she turned around and said, and you've got to see a pediatrician. So then I felt we got on this merry-go-round. It's like a merry-go-round, round and round, like I couldn't get off. And I go here, go here, go here. And I counted at one stage we had 12 health professionals, 12 involved in her care. So, there was occupational therapist, physiotherapist, speech therapist. At one stage, somebody said to her father, she's 3 months old, why has she got a speech therapist? Like, is she talking already? It's about the mouth movements and, making sure she can chew and that sort of thing. So seeing all these health professionals and para-health professionals, and, I was depressed. I fell into depression.
Yes.
And I remember, you get assigned a social worker, and they said at the time, they said, we were really worried about you. And I remember my Imogen has a muscle condition. So she hasn't been 100% diagnosed, but it's most like a muscle condition, so it makes her muscles stiff. I've got an older daughter as well, Maria, so she's 18 months older. And I remember Imogen would be having seizures. So, she's also got epilepsy, so she'd be having seizures. And so she'd go into this, the first I noticed, she just went into this kind of frozen state. And I took her to see the doctors a couple of times. They said, we don't know, we have to diagnose, we have to do tests. But, they couldn't see it. Like, I couldn't get her to the doctor when it was happening. So she had to have probes on her head and everything. But I remember my older daughter coming back to me one day, like Imogen was in the cot, and my older daughter coming back to me, and she said, Mummy, Imogen, do this.
Oh.
So she was having a seizure. So, it has an impact on siblings as well.
Did Imogen have the seizures before the maternal health nurse said that things are not right? So she'd been having, so you thought you already had an inclination that something was not quite right?
I did pretty much from the start, because she was she was jumpy. But it wasn't like, the child and maternal health nurse came at 3 days, and I said, well, she's jumpy, and they said, oh no, she'll settle down in time. She'll settle down. But she was very jumpy. So I guess you have an inkling in the back of your mind. The other thing is that
but
she's got,
you don't want to.
Yeah, beautiful baby. The first one was, you don't know what you're doing, and the second one, this is going to be right. I've got this. It didn't turn out that way.
Yes.
When I brought my older daughter home, put her into the car seat, and she just kind of flopped into place. When I went to put, in retrospect, thinking about Imogen, when I put her in the car seat, she was a bit harder to get the car seat on. And then before the child and maternal health nurse had said that, I recall her being difficult to dress, like she's stiff. Stiff to put her clothes on and things like that. So in retrospect, there were signs, but you don't.
Yes, but you don't. Yeah.
So that was.
And so Christine, have they got a name for the muscular issue that Imogen has?
So it's called Schwartz-Jampel syndrome. So it's a genetic thing. It means the muscles are stiff, and Schwartz and Jampel were the two guys that identified this condition. So with her stiff muscles, the first thing, her finger, the thumb sort of stuck in her hands like that.
Yes.
She couldn't pick things up. But it affects all sorts of things, like mouth for chewing, and so she doesn't speak. She's 20 now, and she doesn't speak.
Yes. Oh. Is she still at home, Christine?
Yes, she is. Yes, she's here with me now.
So she's still.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's watching TV. Yeah, she doesn't walk or talk, but she's the boss of the house.
Yes.
Everything
Fair
revolves
enough.
around her. And if she doesn't like it, she's like, "What you know?"
Oh.
Yeah.
So going back to that diagnosis, young mum, your older daughter, and then you've got this beautiful little baby with these issues and the backwards and forwards to medical professionals and trying to get that sorted. That's an exhausting treadmill to be on, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And as I was saying, it affects the siblings as well. And back then,
Yes.
we were going to hospitals and I could get support, and it hasn't changed actually. I could get support for Imogen, but I couldn't get support for
Yes.
my older daughter. So, my older
Yeah.
daughter could spell, pediatrician before she was 4, seeing all these
Oh,
health professionals. And I
yeah.
was at that stage trying to get care for my older daughter so that I could go to the hospital, but the care is only
Yes.
available for Imogen. So my
Yeah.
older daughter got carted around a lot. Um, as part of that process, but it also affects the older child because if you can imagine, if you've
Yes.
got siblings, you get to interact with your siblings. So I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that my older daughter didn't get to play make believe or work some of those things out that you do with normal siblings. So that's one of the first impacts, I think. And there's other
Yeah.
impacts as as they grow up, they're not
Yes.
growing at the same rate. And
Yes.
also when my older daughter got to be a teenager,
Yeah.
you know, she was a bit more held back, if you like, because, I couldn't just go and
Yes.
take her where she needed to be to hang around with other kids.
Yes.
My other daughter would go to a sibling group, and
Mm-hmm.
she said that the kids at school don't understand. She said, but these kids in the
No.
sibling group
Yes.
understand. It's like normal to them.
They get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
get it. They get it. It's like, hanging around with other parents that get it.
Yes.
You can't get it unless you get
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that was a
So,
journey. So from there, it was, the social worker said at one stage, "I'm very worried about me." I remember, I remember being upset and crying over Imogen,
yes.
and the social worker coming
Yes.
and saying, "She's looking at you, going, 'What's wrong, mummy?'" She's like, "What?" Like, so
Yeah.
she can perceive things. I had somebody visit me one day.
Yes.
She was looking at this guy like, "You're a stranger. Like, what are you doing in my house?" So she says
So
everything
perception.
with her facial expressions. Yeah. So
Oh.
then time went on, and I figured that I'd want to find a way. I was going to
Yes.
get back into the workforce. My background had been science. National
Yes.
technical advisor. I couldn't go back and do that because I,
Yes.
had all this caring. I had to cancel the care that I had. But on the other hand, I think that having Imogen allowed me to stop and smell the roses. So I was
Yes.
on the corporate trajectory. This was everything
Yes.
I thought life was meant to be, but then I had to stop.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I think that it's a blessing because I was
Yes.
able to then stay at home with the children. Like I wasn't then, putting them in care and racing off to work. So I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a blessing. I got to meet people that you wouldn't meet otherwise, very
Yes.
wonderful people in, disability and
Compassionate.
care. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
Imogen got an interchange family. So that's a family that
Mm-hmm.
looks after her. They would look after her one weekend a month from when she was
Oh,
young.
yay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's funny, the people that most help are the ones that have most on their plate, if you like. So this mum
Yes.
had 5 kids of her own, one adopted and two Down syndrome that she also
Yes.
cared for. And then she had Imogen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, oh, wow.
we're still part of their family, if you like. We still see them, and
Yes.
Imogen's
Yes.
too big now to have there. But it's funny how people who, the most caring kind of thing, that have the most on their plate. So,
So do you
yep.
get respite care now that Imogen's older? Just I'm wondering about the continuity from, child to adult because it changes. They still need care, but
Yeah.
obviously they no longer go to that family situation. So do you have a respite family or how does that work now, Christine?
So now, fortunately, NDIS has rolled in. So Imogen,
Ah, yes,
so
yes,
I don't get respite. And there was a whole thing about when the NDIS rolled in, people,
yes,
carers are like, oh, we're not getting respite, we're not being looked after. But it's Imogen's
yes,
being looked after, not me. So
yes,
for me,
yes,
that's better because
yes,
to care for her. It's not easy, by the way, but
yes,
better.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So she goes to a day program. She goes away.
Oh,
Yeah, she goes away on camps, and again, it's not easy for me to let her go.
oh, absolutely. That was my first thought. How do you do that? How do you let it go to a camp?
There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of organizing to do, and sometimes I think it's not worth it. I don't want to send her, and when
Yes,
she's away, I'm always like holding my breath.
yes,
But
yes,
the last couple of times I've been to pick her up, there's other clients there, and they go, "Oh,
yes.
Imogen," maybe not during COVID,
Oh,
but and then it's like, oh,
oh.
that makes it all worth it, like she's there having
Yes,
fun with other
yes,
with other people, and they're like, "Oh, Imogen," and she's got
yes,
some friends. She goes to a respite house. She's got some friends
yes,
there that do the same, that just push her around in the wheelchair. I've got lots of
yes,
stories to
yes,
tell. When she was at
yes.
primary school, they used to just go one day a week to the local
Uh-huh.
normal primary school and be in the class. And the normal kids, there was seven of them. So there was five boys with autism and two girls in a wheelchair. And the local
Oh,
normal kids would push them around in the wheelchair, or they'd chase the children with autism around, and they had to behave. They had to be really good to be
yes,
allowed to go into this special classroom. So they were all like,
yes, yes,
so it's beautiful. It's
yes.
beautiful to see these kids, working together and chasing these boys around with
Yeah,
autism.
yeah,
But
yeah. That's
it's really
fantastic.
nice to see them in that setting. So time went on
Yeah.
anyway, and I decided that I wanted to use the skills and abilities that I had. I felt a bit ripped off because of Bachelor of Science, postgraduate
Yes.
certificate in
Yes.
engineering and technology management. So I looked around for where I could get back into work, and I took a role as coordinator for Northern Region Disability Network because I wanted to learn
Uh-huh.
about disability. I wanted to learn about what
Yes,
services
of
we had. I didn't
course.
know anything about disability. And
Yeah.
you spend time, I would look at people and say, going through this with Imogen, that's not me. No, this is where, that's
Yes.
them, but
Yes.
we're going to get
Yes.
out of this. And then, there comes a time when I guess you accept it. So I accepted and then
Yes.
took a role at Northern Region Disability Coordinator. And from
Yeah.
there, I learnt about disability services, but there was an organisation, some people setting up a political party in 2006 on
Ah.
disability issues. And they targeted
Yeah.
me to stand for them because
Yes.
I had all those contacts in Northern Metropolitan Region. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a game changer. And we were
Yes.
campaigning on what is now NDIS, which is National Disability Insurance Scheme. So for people who are not in
How
Australia,
wonderful.
that's the support service that we have to support the person with the disability. It's called National Disability Insurance Scheme. So we were the forerunner of it, before it rolled in. That's what we were campaigning on. So when it actually rolled in, I was quite familiar with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, like I say, I was thinking, no, this isn't meant to be me. I suffer from depression, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah.
Why me? And then they asked me to stand in the state election, and I went, well, I've been trained to speak in public from my medical sales. I've got a Bachelor
Yeah.
of Science, so I'm pretty
Qualified.
rational. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I can speak for these people. And I went, hang on a minute, it's so meant to be me. So
Yeah.
that was a game changer, I guess. But from there, that's when I decided that it was hard work. I was never ever going to get
Mm-hmm.
into politics again. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Um, but I also that's when I thought to myself, I can wake up happy or I can wake up
Yes.
sad. It's not going to make
Uh-huh.
any difference to Imogen. I might as well wake up the
Yep.
best that I can be. And that
Absolutely.
came out of standing in the state election. So, and I also decided at that stage that I would get the supports that I needed to do whatever I had to do with
Uh-huh.
Imogen, not to make a fight of it.
Yep.
Because if you make a
Yep.
fight, if you make something a fight, that's tiring.
Yes.
So I just
Absolutely.
decided what I needed and took the steps. Again, the same thing that I did when I was in forensic science and wanted to get out. This is where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And I didn't get caught up in the bushfires around me, I guess. It's just this is what I need
Uh-huh.
and this is what I get. I did prior to standing in the state election, I was writing letters to MPs. I
Yep.
was, protesting in the streets, speeches on the steps
Yep.
of Parliament, all but tying myself to trees.
There's nothing wrong with tying yourself to a good tree.
No, there's not. But what I noticed was I could do all that stuff and it didn't make one iota of difference. What makes a
Yeah.
difference is actually being at the table. So I decided
Yeah.
it was hard work, tiring, never going to do it again. And then in 2012, some people asked me to stand in the council election, and I did. So it is actually sitting at the table that you get to have an influence on those decisions. So I think
Yes.
all this experience leads me to say we need more of us to be sitting at that table.
Yes. Absolutely. Christine, what was the difference between state politics and local politics for you? Was state politics your ability to have a bigger voice versus local politics smaller voice, or were they just completely different? I'm curious.
State politics, it was a political party set up on disability issues. So we had that kind of big, grand
Yes, great big.
impact, if you like. We didn't actually get anyone elected, but we were there to stand. So
Yeah.
when you see different parties stand on different issues and people say, oh, they're just a one party issue, or, they're just about animal rights,
Yes.
it actually makes a difference because it gives people that voice. So that was us. So then when it came
Yeah.
to local government, I said, at first I said I was never going to do it again. And then somebody asked
I
me,
know. I
okay.
know.
And I was like, all right. So I did. And again, it was about having that voice. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to stand in local council. Like, that's just about
Yeah.
bitching, infighting, and backbiting. I don't want to be involved
Yes.
in that, petty fighting.
Yep.
And they asked me to stand. I didn't expect to get elected, and I got elected. And I got to the table, and it was all that I thought: pity, backbiting, infighting.
Yes.
But sitting at the
Oh
table,
no.
but sitting at the table,
Yes.
I mean, again, I didn't get engaged in that stuff. So sitting at the table, I was able to have an impact. That's where I got a special school set up, and that's where I got a cafe for people
Yes.
with disabilities. So where I said we need to be sitting at the table, I was sitting at the table and
It
able to
allows.
have an impact. And the council, as I said before, it was a very acrimonious council. It was very,
Yep.
sided. But
Yes.
they had said to me, anything you want, we will back you because we know that you know what you're talking about. So, when I come to
Oh,
the table with the special school, like they were just, how do we get this done? How do we get this done? So
amazing. Amazing.
we do need to be sitting at the table. But, having said all of that, I made amazing friends
Yes.
and had amazing things come out of it. People that I didn't think, made friends across the board. And what you see in
Yeah.
state politics or federal politics and you see them fighting or whatever, you still have to get together to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So you still have
Yeah.
to, if you're just fighting all the time, you don't get it done. So, but I was able to talk to them all and get
Yes.
stuff done. So what you see on the TV or whatever, there's a lot of stuff where politicians come together to get those bigger things
Yes.
done.
Yeah. That's actually encouraging to know, because from the outside looking in, all they look like they do is fight and try to score political points against each other. And I feel like putting them in a ring like 2-year-olds and going, sort it out. And when you come back, let's get some stuff done. That's what Australian politics looks like to me from the outside looking in. But it's good to hear that they actually get stuff done. That's good to know.
Well, I'm still involved in politics, and I'll say now that it's not
Yes.
like that. That's what you see on the TV, and that's how the media
Yeah.
promotes it. But knowing, like I know, personally the MPs, and I think
Yes.
the things that people say about them, I think that no matter which side you're on, they're there for the good of the people. They are. They just
Yes.
think about things from a different perspective, but they're all there for. It's a
Uh-huh.
it's a tough gig.
Oh,
So I think that we
gosh,
need to
yes.
pay them the respect that they're due. It's, I worked in an MP's office, and they're, on call 24/7. Their life is
Yes. They
on
work
display.
lots.
Yeah, and no amount of money can really account for that.
Compensate.
Yeah, compensate. Their families are sometimes drawn into it. So I think that we need to respect them, and we need to
Yes.
respect that it's a process. And both sides are there for good of the people, so we need to allow them to do that. So I got elected to council, and I had, again, by this stage, my now ex-husband had left. So we worked through.
Christine, sorry, lovely. Was the reason he left difficulty dealing with Imogen's diagnosis, or was it other things?
No, it was other things. It was other things. And I don't like to say it's dealing with Imogen's disability. Maybe that had something to do with it, but I don't think that's fair on Imogen, because that's her responsible. But he had his.
And she's not.
No, she's not responsible. It just is how it is. So, but by now he'd left, and so I then was elected to council, and I had a decision to make. How was I going to do this? Oh my God!
That's my first thought. Yay, you got elected to a council. Hubby's just left. You've got the beautiful Imogen and a younger daughter. How do you make that work? Oh my God.
That's right. And the funny thing was, we'd kind of anticipated that it was going to happen, as in the other councillors and myself. And Imogen had major surgery coming up. She had a rod put in her back because she was.
Oh no.
So
yes.
So the VEC rang me. So they're the people who organised the countbacks, which it was a countback.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And said, so there's going to be a countback on this day. And I said, it's no problem. Imogen has to go to hospital, but they're only going to clean her teeth. And they'd sent me the wrong letter, and she was going to have this rod put in.
Oh, Christine.
Yeah, thinking back,
that's terrible.
She had a rod put in her back. She was in intensive care.
Yes. It's a big deal.
Big deal. And she came out of intensive care, and then she crashed again, and she was back in intensive care. And at the end of the 2 weeks, and she was still in hospital when they had the count back. So I had the interchange mum come and sit with her, and drove out to the council, and I got elected. So then I had the decision to make.
Yay.
But yes, so came out and I got elected, and then it was like back in hospital. Now what? I've been elected to council. I had some reporters ring me to ask me about it, but it was like, here I am sitting in the hospital again.
Yeah, anyway, looking after Imogen.
Yeah. So then Imogen came out of hospital and she had care. But at
Uh-huh.
this time, I was like, this is an opportunity. People have voted for me to stand, and I
Yes.
take my place at the table because I'd be letting them down if I didn't. So how was I going to do that? So I just thought I'll just throw everything at it that I possibly can, whatever I have to do. I didn't know what that was going
Uh-huh.
to look like. So
Yeah.
so I took the opportunity and took my place at council. So I organised to get support workers, and I just thought I'd do the minimum that I possibly could. But as time went on,
Yes.
I got more used to it, I guess. But when you ask
Yeah.
about, do I have respite? I feel like that was a practice run, or it made me
Yes.
get support workers. I had to. Whereas before
Yes.
before I got elected to council, I probably wouldn't have left her for more than 2 hours at a time. So we
Uh-huh.
life like
Mm-hmm.
running here, running back,
Yes.
running
Yes.
all around Imogen. But it made me have to get support workers and have to work around her care. So NDIS wasn't a
Good.
thing at that time,
No.
but it was like a practice run. Yeah. So I think it's
Amazing.
a good thing.
So we talked about your career as a national sales manager for medical devices and traveling all the world, Imogen. What made you think, and getting into council, and then so what made you think about going from that to your career in coaching? What was the pivotal moment that led to that decision?
I had I knew that I had a pathway where I had
Mm,
overcome significant challenges, firstly Imogen and standing in the state
yes,
election, kind of things that not many other people have done as full-time carers.
correct. Mm,
And then being elected to council, and people were often asking me how I achieved this or how I did that. So I wanted to be able to help other women in my position. I don't want another woman to feel like they have to, in a caring position, or, you know, with disability, or at the end of their career, perhaps, they're being made redundant, something like that. I don't want another woman to feel
yes,
like that's the end of their life, or to be defined by that. I know
yes,
that I have the ability to light the pathway for other women. So I
yeah,
did a coaching course so that I could formally do that with other women. So that's
yes,
what led me to that, because I want other women to, I say I won't be defined by Imogen's disability, and I want other people to know that they don't have to be defined by the challenges that they're faced with.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think that I had a conversation this morning with my first co-host, and we were talking about a lot of things, but one of those were around male and female roles. Now, it's my understanding that many, many women are the sole carer for their child or young adult with disabilities. Do
Mm.
you see that changing with support of NDIS, or do you think that's one of those things that's going to remain with the mums in the stories?
It depends if we're talking about the mums or if we're talking about support workers. So if we talk about carers as
Yes,
the carers,
yes.
family carers and support workers in the industry, I had a conversation with somebody last week, a former
Mm-hmm.
principal of a special school, and talking about
Yes,
having male teachers. Now, Imogen had some male support workers
yes,
at the school, but he
yeah,
said that, and it's the same here. I have all female support workers, and I'm not
mm.
comfortable having a male support worker. So I think as far as
Yeah, no,
males males go, caring for, so women can care for males or females. Men
yes,
put themselves at risk for caring
yes,
for girls. So I think
yes.
that that's one of the things
Part of the
that
problem.
mean that it remains mainly a woman's role as a support worker. As a carer,
Yes,
I swapped roles with my ex at different stages, and he stayed home and looked
yes,
after both my older daughter and Imogen. And I think that they
Uh-huh.
both benefit from that, both the child
Yes.
and him, because they bring something different to the table.
Yes.
But I think as women, and this is what I say about
Mm-hmm.
we need to identify
Yeah.
our gold. I think that we need to step over that. We do a lot of giving away
Yes.
our gifts, and I think that
Yes.
I think we need more. We need more male teachers. We need more male support workers, because there's male um, people, children with disability, with behavioural
Yeah.
issues, and we need more males in
Yes.
the field. But
Yes.
it's also difficult with that sexual thing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, I agreed. It's a wonderful conversation to have heading into 2021, the whole idea of gender and gender stereotypes, because whilst it's very important, particularly with women and young women with disability, that they have access to female carers, we still need to build that, continue to build care into male roles as well, because males can be incredibly caring and supportive. It's not the sole role of females, except in those circumstances where you're looking after young women and um, people, females with disabilities, because that's where it's important to have access to female support. Um, I know that,
It's important to have choice. I think it's important to have choice. But I think
yes,
that men
yes,
bring something wonderful to the role that we need to
yes,
embrace, and we need to encourage
yes,
them. Absolutely.
yes, yes. We need to have that more diversity across
Mm.
the support system that supports our people with disability. Um, I want to ask about the NDIS, because it's kind of unique to Australia, and it's probably important that we talk about what it actually is for our American audience. I don't know that there's something quite the same in America, and I know that
Mhm.
our NDIS, the National Disability Support Initiative, is pretty good, isn't it, Christine?
Yes, it is very good. So prior to NDIS rolling in,
Mm.
I got support to sit on council provided
Yes,
by the council, but outside of that,
yes.
I could get 5 hours a month. 5 hours a month
Oh,
to go out, socialize with my friends. So that was
oh,
when, back in the day, when it was supporting the carer, if you like. So now
yes.
the support is around
It
Imogen.
supports the person. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as people, we were talking earlier about, having the carer supported or the person supported. So now
Yes,
it has a package. So it's about her disability, and it's about her.
yes.
So our NDIS is about supporting the person to live as near a normal life as possible. So
They can. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know I don't think that there's anything like that in the US. I don't know
I,
what
I'm
else is
pretty
comparable.
sure there's not,
So
because
she's
it.
got a package to support her. So if I think about, it's not what I'm doing. So I used to have to write down
No,
everywhere I
no.
went. Used to have to,
Yeah.
think about, am I doing this? Am I going there? Are they paying that? Now it's about Imogen. So I think about, what would
Yes.
it be like if she was normal, if my life was normal. So, and
Yeah.
it's a significant package to support
Good.
her. But I still think too that it's not easy, if you're a carer, even if you're in Australia, it's not easy to hand over that
Yes.
care.
Eh,
So money's
That
nice.
was my next question. That was my next question. How do you, as her mum, who has been her single sole support person for so long, change into allowing the government, I guess, to determine what her best needs are and support her in that? How do you let go, Christine? As her mum, how do you let go?
That's where I say the council was good for me because that
Yes.
made me as a I wouldn't, like I'd run out and get shopping, run back, run out, I hadn't left her,
Yes.
whereas I had to. So I had to plan, and I had to think
Yes.
about what things can I get the support workers to do, because I think a lot of
Mhm.
carers, if they're listening to this,
Yes.
will be saying, I can't do that. It really forced me to
Yes.
say, well, you'll have to feed her. I won't be here. You'll have to do this. Before that, I used to work everything around so that, and I used to have
So that you still did that.
these support
Mhm.
workers that used to come for 5 hours a month. I would
Yeah.
feed her, change her, put her to bed, and they would sit on my couch and knit. So that I was doing handstands and backflips, pirouettes, so that they could sit on my
Yes.
couch, and I'd be like
And
exhausted.
relax.
And I think that,
Yes.
that's it's not easy to do. It's not
Yeah.
easy to hand it over, but I think
Yes.
that if there's anything that I can say for carers, you need to practice it
Yes.
and make some of those hard decisions, and it's still not perfect. Oh,
But you get more of that help now though, Christine. So you can actually leave and know that Imogen is fully cared for. You don't have to run around and do the meals and toileting and bedtime. You can just go and know that she's going to get the care that she deserves while you're with outside the house.
yes, but it takes practice and it takes organisation. So as much
Yeah.
as, but within the NDIS, it's a lot more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get those workers to do
Okay.
more, whereas the other ones would come and just sit on my couch. But I'll just tell you a quick story
Yeah,
about
yeah. Yes,
after
please.
I'd been elected to council, and I went away to write my book. I went away to write the book. And I
Yes.
went away with Natasha Denman for the 48-hour author. So for a weekend, it's going to go away
Yes.
and write this book. And it was down the peninsula, so 2 hours out of Melbourne. And this was the
Yep.
first time that I'd left Imogen. So I'd been running around with council, just up the road if I needed to be. This was going away for a weekend, still in Melbourne. So I had everything
Yes.
organised. I had support workers come in for the weekend, and I had everything laid out, the food, the medications, had a backpack on
Yes.
a wheelchair
Yes.
with a key to the house so they could get in the house. The support workers had been here, they knew where everything was. I'd been
Yep.
away for 2 hours, and the support worker rang me and said, there's no key to get in the house. So everything was like planned, everything was, organised, but it fell over. So this is where I'm saying that you can organise and you can
Yep.
let go, but there's still things that can still
Fall
happen.
over.
So,
Yeah.
so I had a key hidden in the garden. So here I am on the
Oh,
phone, 2 hours
thank
away,
God for
trying to direct the support worker to where this key was in the garden. It's not there now, by the way.
that.
And it looked like she was never going to find it. Was I going to drive back? And next thing, the support worker goes, "Oh, your other daughter's here." It's like I was so focused on Imogen, I forgot I had another daughter.
Yes.
And she turned up with her key
Oh.
and let her into the house. So I think as carers, we have backup plans to backup plans to backup plans. Like I also have my parents with
Yes.
keys, and I'd forgotten
Yes.
about my older daughter, and the siblings are so
Yes.
important.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in all of this, how does your older daughter um, cope with all of this, and how involved is she in Imogen's care?
So over the years, she's been very involved, and she would
Yep.
stay home and look after her at times. She's now
Yep.
moved out of home,
Yep.
and she said to me, "What do you think about moving out of home?" And I said, "I think that's a good idea because you get to
Good
spend
idea.
time." Yeah, like I want her to have the best life that she possibly can, and I've done everything in my
Yes.
power to make
Yeah.
her as resilient as I can, because one day she might have
Yes.
to make decisions for Imogen, and I need her to be the best that she can be. And they're more
Yes.
prone to mental health issues, drugs, and alcohol. So
Yes.
Imogen will be Imogen, but I need to make
Yes.
my daughter the best that she can be. So she's she's found it hard, and she doesn't have a
Yes.
sibling to have those normal relationships. And at some stage, she might have to make decisions for her. So that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough.
Yes.
She has been very involved in her care, but now she lives out of home, and I
Yeah.
support her in doing that.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. We are down to the last 3 minutes, and I I wanted to talk to you about grants made easy and a few other things, but I think I'm going to park that for next week because I want to really delve into that whole discussion. But you've got a really powerful mission, and I actually think that this is a very beautiful way to round out the end of the show. So I want you to tell our audience about your beautiful mission, Christine.
So I have a mission to light the pathway for 1,000 women. I want women who feel they're not heard, they're overworked, underpaid, or they're dealing with a challenge like disability or caring, illness. I want them to know that they have a voice. I don't want them to be defined by the challenge that they think they are. So that's what I want to help
Fantastic.
women.
And Christine, you also help women find their unique gifts and discover what they're passionate about, because your unique gifts and your passion are what will get you up in the morning. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm Absolutely. I am like Christine, and I've battled with depression and anxiety. So I know what it feels like to struggle to get out of bed of a morning. But I can tell you the difference it makes when you discover something that you're passionate about, because that will get you up. No matter how low and bad you're feeling, that passion will drive you forward. So I'm really looking forward to getting into the whole discussion about passion, and passion in particular for women, in the upcoming weeks. Now, Christine, before we completely run out of time, I would like you to tell the audience how they can connect with you and your website, please.
Yeah, so my website is www.christinestow.com.au, or they can contact me on Facebook. So Christine A. Stow on Facebook. And I've got a link to my magnetic mindset morning ritual, or 25 no cost, low cost marketing ideas.
Fantastic. Now, guys, just for you listening, if you're looking for those links in particular, they'll be up on our website as well, radiotoni.com. But go in the first instance to christinestow.com.au, and you will find lots more information about Christine and what she does, which we will be delving into again. So Christine and I have got a show next week, and we're going to have a bit of a break over Christmas, and then we'll be back again with 2 more shows. So next week, I want to delve into, Christine wrote a wonderful program called Grants Made Easy. So we're going to delve into that next week, and further continue our conversation about women finding their passion and purpose rather, because that's an important conversation. And it's often at this time of year, at Christmas time, when people have a break, they have time to actually sit and think and wonder about these things. So it's an important conversation we'll come back to next week. Wonderful listeners, thank you everyone for joining us today. You've been listening live to Christine Stow and Toni Lontas on Radio Toni Every Day Business. Christine Stow, thank you so much for joining us this week. I can't wait to our further discussion next week, and tell our listeners more about what you do and what passion drives you. So thanks, Christine. And TJ, that's it for us this week. I will talk to you again all soon. Bye for now.